Today we're going to continue looking at stretches and compressions. So just like last lesson, we're going to be looking at our amplitude and our period. Amplitude is the A, and it's the absolute value of A, so it's always positive. And to find our period, we do 2 pi divided by B, which is the number in front of your X. So for number 1, this is just like what we've been doing for the past 2 days now. The first thing you need to do is draw the shape of your function. So because this is sine, you know it starts at 0, and it's positive, which means it's going up first and then down. It's going to end back at 0. So this is a positive sign. Your amplitude is 3, so that is where this graph is going to go up to and go down to. And then to find your period, we're going to do 2 pi divided by 3 over 2. Which we talked about last time. Whenever you divide by a fraction, it's the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. So 2 pi times 2 over 3 gives us 4 pi over 3. Okay, so because this is our period, this is where this graph actually ends. This is 4 pi divided by 3. And so the middle point here, between here and here, if this is 4 pi over 3, half of 4 is going to be 2 pi over 3. So we can now use this to plot our graph. So we know it starts at 0, 0. And we talked yesterday about pi over 3 is 2 spaces. So pi over 3 is 2 spaces. This is pi over 3, which means 2 more spaces is 2 pi over 3. And we can actually keep on going. 2 more spaces is 3 pi over 3. 2 more spaces is 4 pi over 3. So we have the midpoint is at 2 pi over 3, which is right here. Between these two, we want our graph to be going up to positive 3. So halfway in between here is right here. We want this one to go up to 3. So here's our hill. And then we want it to go down. Our next point is at 4 pi over 3, so right here. And halfway in between here, we want it to go down to 3. And so this is one period. And we're just going to repeat this. So I know that this one goes 2 over, and then it goes up to 3. So I'm going to go on 2 over, it goes up to 3. And 2 more, and it goes back down. Same thing on this side, 2 over, this one goes down. 2 over, so it goes up. So each of these is separated by 2 spaces. And as with all sine and cosine functions, our domain is negative infinity to infinity. Our range is negative 3 to positive 3. Negative number comes first, brackets. Okay, let's do one more problem like this one. So again, let's first draw our shape. This is negative cosine, which tells us it's going to be starting at the bottom, going up and going back to the bottom. Our amplitude is 2. And so in this case, we have 2 pi divided by, our b value is 2 pi over 3. Again, because it is a fraction, we're going to flip the fraction. It's going to be 2 pi times 3 over 2 pi. So these 2 pi's actually cancel out and just leave you with a period of 3. So we know that right here is going to be 3. So let's plot at first these 2 points. So this one is right at negative 2. And I also know that if I go to 3 on my x-axis, it should also give me a negative 2. And halfway in between these two is where it's going to go all the way up to the top of the hill, which is going to be at positive 2. So halfway in between 0 and 3 is going to be 1.5, and up here is where it's going to go up to 2. So this is 1.5. And then we're just going to connect this, and this is one period. So again, I'm going to repeat it. I know this is 1, 2, 3 spaces over, so 1, 2, 3 spaces over. That's my next top of the hill. 3 spaces over, that's my next point. And keep on going. Okay, again, negative infinity to infinity. With infinity, we always use parentheses. Our range is from -2 to +2, brackets. Okay, so what is new about today is now we're going to go backwards. So we're going to start off with a graph, and we're going to go backwards from this graph and write the equation. So the first thing that we want to do when we look at this graph is look at where it starts. So because it starts at the top, it's a graph that looks like this, we know this is going to be a positive cosine graph, right? Because cosine starts at either the top or bottom. If it starts at the top, that means it's positive. If we look at the highest and lowest number, the highest number here is 2, the lowest number here is -2, which tells us that our amplitude is 2. And to find our period, so cosine, if it starts at the top, it ends at the top. So in this case, this is where it ends. And this is ending at pi. So we know our period is pi. Now we can use this to write our equation for this graph. So just like when we were finding period, we did 2 pi divided by your b value. To get your b value, you were also going to do 2 pi divided by your period. So we're going to do 2 pi divided by, this is your period, which is pi. Pi over pi cancels out, so this just leaves you a 2. So my b value is going to be 2. So I know it's a positive function. My amplitude is 2, so 2 is the number that goes in front of your trig function. It's a cosine function. And then this 2 is your b value, which goes in front of the x. Okay, let's do another example. So for number 4, this one starts at 0, but it goes down and then up. So it looks like this, which tells you if it starts at 0, it's a sine function, but because it goes down first, it's a negative sine function. Our amplitude, the highest point it goes to, the lowest point it goes to, are both 3 and -3, so this is an amplitude of 3. Now our period, so this is what a full period looks like. So we want it to go down and then up, and so it stops right here, which is at 4. So I know I have a period of 4. So it's a negative sign, so I know it's the negative, and then my amplitude is 3, so this number goes right here in front of the sign. To find my b value, I'm now going to do 2 pi divided by my period, so 2 pi divided by 4, which you can actually simplify to be pi over 2, because 2 over 4 is the same thing as 1 over 2. So what goes in front of my x here is pi over 2. Okay, last example. Okay, so for this one, it is starting at the bottom, so we know that it's got to be a negative cosine. The amplitude is, it's going, the highest point is 4, lowest point is -4. Amplitude is 4. The period for this one's a little bit trickier because as you can see, you don't see the end of this period. It is off the graph. But what we do see is the midpoint here. So this midpoint is at 2 pi. Right, so this point, the top of your hill, is the midpoint of the cycle, is here at 2 pi. If that's the midpoint, then you know that the whole period is going to end at 4 pi. So that is what our period is. And so, again, we're going to do b equals 2 pi divided by our period, which is 4 pi. The pi's cancel out, so we're left with 2 over 4, which is the same thing as 1/2. So this is my b value. Okay, so because it's negative, here's a negative. Amplitude is 4. It's a cosine function. And then we found our b, which is 1/2. The 1/2 goes in front of the x.